Hello everyone. Happy September 1st. Here we go. It's September to remember, right? Oh my gosh, we'll see, right? Okay, we finally arrived in September. Now we just need to sit back and watch God's hand move. We're gonna see how things are going, and maybe this is the month that we finally go home. Not saying it will happen, but there's just a lot of things that are going to be happening this month, and there's a lot of people that don't believe it, and that's okay. And there's a lot of people that mock those who are watching dates. They hate the person that watches dates. They try to embarrass, humiliate, they try to be rude to the people that are watching, and it's gotten really sad, and it just shows their lack of maturity in the word, shows their lack of maturity as a believer. And because if you are a mature believer in Jesus, it's not going to bother you, and it's going to actually excite you and be ready for the Lord's return, and it's going to give you that extra push that you need to get over that finish line. Because remember, I was telling you, I feel like I'm crawling. I'm barely moving. I feel like I'm crawling on my belly just to reach the end of the finish line. And if somebody is showing good evidence or proof or good arguments for a soon rapture, like let's say in September, and if it gets me up off of my belly and puts me back on the race and keeps me motivated, then there's nothing wrong with that. And I would hope that would be that anybody, I hope that it would encourage you to get up and move and to look at the signs of the times. And there's a lot of people. I was just watching something. Oh gosh, I forget his name. His last name is Rogan. Gosh, I forget his name. It was on the tip of my tongue too. Anyway, he does like the UFC stuff. So if anybody knows, you know who I'm talking about. He's not a believer. And even people in the world are beginning to see what's going on and beginning to remember the believers proclaiming Jesus' soon return and the things to look for and the things that are going to be happening, and that this is what's going to happen when Jesus comes back. And there's going to be a lot of people that are going to say, oh my gosh, those Christians were right. And they may not receive Jesus before the rapture happens, but they certainly may after. And I was watching a brief, like maybe a 30-second, video clip of, it's Joe Rogan, talking about this cashless society. And he brought it up. And he said, I remember Christians talking about this in Revelation. And he goes, I want to read what Revelation says. Let's see what it says. And he pulled it up and he read it word for word. So he's getting the seed planted, and God is using these end times events, and even he's using believers to, we might seem like nutsos, okay, we might seem crazy to most people, but God is using these end time signs to wake up the lost, and he's using it to prove that, wait, the Bible says this, and it proves to the lost, one, that Jesus is real, and two, that the Bible is real. Because these events were written over 2,000 years ago, and it's happening now. And it's beginning to prove to these people. And there's a lot of atheists that are beginning to see, wait a minute, this stuff is real. This stuff is true. This stuff is happening. Now, there are a lot that are blind. Their eyes are covered, their hearts are hardened, they don't want to see, they refuse to see, and that's on them. That's between them and God. But it doesn't negate the fact that these things are happening, and that the Christians have been saying it for eons, And we're seeing it all happen now, and we're seeing, these people that are saying, wait, Jesus is coming back. And I just wish that we could all be on one accord, instead of there being one camp of there is no rapture and another camp that Jesus is coming before the tribulation. I wish that we could be all on one accord, but unfortunately we can't. And unfortunately, I have come across, and back, when I first started making videos again, just a few days ago, this is accurate. And I have done this even just as of yesterday. Somebody doesn't believe, I post something on a social media platform talking about the pre-trib rapture, and they despise it, they hate it, they loathe anybody who talks about it. They say that you're teaching a false gospel, a false doctrine, that you're lost, you're going to hell because you are believing such things. And I always, and I've said this before, I always lead with the question first, before we can have a civil conversation about the rapture and the timing of the rapture. I have to get out of the way first if they believe in eternal salvation, or if they believe you can lose your salvation. And 98% of the time, they believe you can lose your salvation. Therefore, they aren't saved anyways. They will be in the tribulation anyways. So they are right about their assumption. But we, as a saved believer, will not be in the tribulation, because we believe in eternal security. We believe no added works are needed for salvation. We believe that we are saved by grace, not of works. And those who believe you can lose your salvation believe that you have to do something to earn it and keep it. So therefore, they have added something to the gospel. They have become accursed, and they are not a believer. They aren't saved. So yes, they are going to be in the tribulation. So, unfortunately, we can't all be on one accord. However, there are many that are beginning to see the evidence of a pre-trib rapture, and they are becoming believers. And there are lost people that are seeing that the things that the Christians have been saying for so long are coming to pass, and they are trying to figure it out. Some might not figure it out until the tribulation. And, we know that that's going to happen, because the Bible says so. The Bible says that there's going to be believers in the tribulation that are going to be martyred. I posted that those videos about those women in Israel. I don't think they are the only ones. I've seen other believers in Israel. I think those women were just chosen because they are women. If they had been men, I don't think the reaction would have been quite the same. I think that because they were women proclaiming Jesus, I think that's where it kind of fueled the fire, which is sad, but that's where I believe. But there are many people that are preaching the gospel in Israel, and that's where the 144,000 are going to come. That's where they are becoming believers. They're believing in Jesus as the Messiah. And here we are. We're in September, and there are a lot of things that are going to be happening this month. Whether the rapture happens or not, there are a lot of prophetic biblical things that are going to be happening this month, and you can't deny that. The only thing I can say is hold on tight, and we're either going up or going through a little bit more before he comes. And I personally don't believe it's going to be through a little bit more. I personally believe that he is coming by the end of this year. I'm not saying when, and there's nothing wrong with saying a personal view. I'm not putting God's name on it at all. I'm not saying God told me. I'm not saying, oh, he's going to come by, September 15th at 10 o'clock. I'm not saying that. And you have to be careful also with people on YouTube that are using Jesus to gain income. Not income, I don't mean it that way. To gain, I guess it would be income, because they're using Jesus to get something. They use the gospel. They use people's they pull people's heartstrings for their gain. And people are so kind in their heart that they want to help with things, and it ends up not being what they thought that money was going to. And so we have to be careful in these last days, because there are a lot of people that are out to deceive. They might look like a sheep, but they are a ravenous wolf. And we need to be careful who we trust, who we send our hard-earned money to. If people are using Jesus as I don't want to say a license to sin, because it's not, as a license to, they're using God's people for their own gain, is what I mean. They're not who they say they are on YouTube. They're a completely different person. They're a sheep on YouTube and a ravenous wolf outside of YouTube. They're completely different. And unfortunately that is part of the end times. That is, the deception is so thick and so strong that's part of the end times. And people, unfortunately, just because somebody says that they're a believer doesn't actually mean that it's true. There's a lot of people that say that they're believers, but they're not. I always tell my kids, I always tell my kids that too. I try to train the kids in that and say, well, be careful, have discernment. Just because somebody says they believe in Jesus doesn't actually mean that it's true. Remember Judas. Judas said he believed in Jesus, and look what happened to him. And he betrayed Jesus, and now he's in hell. He wasn't born again. There's a difference between believing and being born again. So just have discernment in these last seconds, and just know that there's certain people that you cannot trust. Just because they look nice and say that they're going to use the money for something doesn't mean that they actually do. Chances are they use the money for their own selfish gain, and they use it for something that is not of God, and they're thieves, and they steal from God's people, and it's really sad. And just be careful. But anyways, guys, we are in this final moments, and I heard it said today that those people that believe that we have to go through the tribulation are like Moses, who struck the rock twice, because the rock represented Jesus Christ, and he died once. He didn't die multiple times. He died one time, and we are the body of Jesus. We have endured, and the Bible says that we will endure till the end. We are enduring until the trumpet call. That is our end. That is where our finish line is up. Our race is over, and the trumpet call has been called. We have endured until the end. Doesn't mean that we must endure till the end of wrath, because we aren't appointed to that. As the body, Jesus isn't going to beat himself up. He's not going to commit, on himself by putting us through that. So have heart in knowing that you can trust Jesus in his word and in what he says. And like I said in the beginning, those people that are proclaiming that the church must go through the tribulation, they are in fact prophesying their own outcome, because they in fact will be here for the tribulation. And I can only pray that they will get saved before it happens, but most certainly once it does happen, that they will realize that they were very, very, very wrong. And I pray that they don't take the mark, which is coming, by the way. So take heart, everybody, and just know that Jesus is coming. Keep your heads up, look at the signs, and be excited. So love you guys. I will talk to you later.